Hello everyone, I am Brooke Smith from Dr. Lewis's Education 655 class, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the lack of participation during literacy instruction. So what was the purpose of my study? This action research studied the lack of class participation during literacy instruction, as well as the participants' perspectives on the effectiveness of using a student-led classroom to improve students' participation. Throughout this whole research that was conducted, I had one goal in mind, and that was to implement a student-led classroom, which is a type of teaching method, to increase the participation rate during literacy instruction. Now that you all are familiar with what goal I had in mind throughout this whole research, it's important that you're familiar with what theorist or what theory was behind my research. Constructivism, which is from Vygotsky, suggests that one learns best through interacting with others. Vygotsky created his diagram called the Zone of Proximal Development, better known as ZPD, that shows what students can do on their own, what students can do with help, and what students cannot do yet. While conducting my research, I was able to implement Vygotsky's diagram of ZPD, or also known as Zone of Proximal Development. I was able to see what students could do on their own, then what they could do on their own, but with guided assistance from me, and what they were not able to do yet. When students were not able to complete the task on their own, this was a great opportunity to implement a student-led classroom and allowed them to work with their peers through constructivism. Prior to starting this research, I came up with two questions that I wanted to be able to answer at the end of the research. Question number 1, does a student-led classroom increase class participation? And number 2, what factors cause students to not participate in class? By the end of the research, these questions will be answered. Background literature. Literacy and math are two key concepts for elementary school students. It is found that there is a lack of participation during literacy. For example, less than 10% of St. Louis public schools students reached the proficient level in the Missouri Assessment Program. However, they created a student-centered environment, also known as a student-led classroom, and from this change, schools have seen remarkable improvement. While conducting this research, I used 3 main methods. The first was surveying students. I surveyed students and I was able to collect my data through this. I used Vygotsky's diagram of ZPD, also known as Zone of Proximal Development. I was able to see what students could do on their own, what students could do but needed a little assistance with, and what students were not able to do at all on their own. When students were not able to complete a task on their own, this is when a student-led classroom was implemented, and this allowed them to use the theory constructivism by Vygotsky to help them complete the task. And lastly, annotated notes were taken throughout this whole process. During the survey, students were asked, how often do you feel like you participate during whole group literacy? 18.8% of students said they always participate during whole group literacy. 68.8% of students said they sometimes participate during whole group literacy. And 12.5% said that they never participate during whole group literacy. The next question for students on the survey was, if you chose sometimes or never for the previous question, why not? And the 4 choices were fear of judgment, which was 25%, anxious/nervous, which was over half, 62.5%, confidence, which was the lowest at 18.8%, and students not having the answer or a comment during a discussion, which was a little over half at 56.3%. So the lowest were fear of judgment and confidence, and the highest were being anxious and nervous or not having the answer or a comment to say throughout the process. Students were then asked, if you had the opportunity to do group work / hands-on activities, would you begin participating more? No students answered no. So over half of the students said yes, they would begin participating more, and 37.5% said maybe. Students were then asked, how do you learn best through collaborative or individualized learning? Over half of the students said that they learned through collaborative learning, which is with others, 81.3%. And then individually was 18.8% of students. So you can see that many students want and do learn best through collaborative learning, which is why I believe that we should incorporate collaborative learning into our schools. The last question was, overall, would you enjoy learning more if you were able to work in groups and collaborate with your peers rather than traditional learning? As you can see, 75% said yes, and 25% said maybe, and there were no answers. So the conclusion is, it is very evident that students enjoy working with their peers. They want to collaborate with others, and participation rates would increase. So through this, we could see rise in social / emotional success and academic success. Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.